Just a moment. Good morning and welcome to Morning Joe. It is Monday, October 28th. With us, we have the host of Way Too Early, White House Bureau Chief at Politico, Jonathan Lemire. U.S. Special Correspondent for BBC News, Katty Kay, is with us this morning. President of the National Action Network and host of MSNBC's Politics Nation, Reverend Al Sharpton, is here. And CEO of the Messina Group, Jim Messina. Jim served as White House Deputy Chief of Staff to President Obama and ran his 2012 re-election campaign. So, with just over a week until Election Day, new polling is showing Vice President Kamala Harris with a slight edge over Donald Trump. A new ABC News poll among likely voters has Harris up by 4 points, 51% to 47%. That is within the margin of error. The poll also shows Harris ahead of Trump among key demographics. Let's go through them. Harris leads Trump by 30 points among Latino voters, a group that Biden won by a similar 33 points in 2020, according to ABC News exit polling. Harris also has a 19-point lead among suburban women, a 6-point gain from Biden in 2020. Among black voters, Harris is outperforming Biden's 2020 margin with black men by 14 points and by 7 points with black women. With college graduates, Harris has a 10-point gain from Biden in 2020. When it comes to white men with college degrees, Trump won the group by 3 points in 2020, but now Harris is winning by 4 points in this poll. And for white women with college degrees, Harris is winning by 14 points. That's more than Biden in 2020. On top issues, Harris leads by 6 points when it comes to looking out for the middle class, and by 10 points when it comes to health care. Harris leads Trump by 11 points in being seen as having the mental sharpness it takes to effectively serve as president. And her advantage widens to 29 points on having the physical health to serve effectively. Most voters see her as honest and trustworthy, likely to understand the problems of people like you, to share personal values, and to be trusted in a crisis. Meanwhile, more voters think Trump is more likely to say that things are not true. The poll also found registered voters are more than twice as likely to call Donald Trump a fascist than to say the same about Kamala Harris. Joe, what do you make of these numbers? There's a lot of other information to bring in, and also what appears to be the closing argument by the Trump side and that contrast with the Harris campaign.
We'll start with the last question first. Donald Trump could win. Everybody in his campaign thinks he can win. Every Republican in America, except those that are quietly voting for Kamala Harris, are running around saying he's going to win. I haven't seen a side this confident since Mitt Romney's side in 2012 knew he was going to beat Barack Obama. And they just kept saying it. They were so sure they were going to win that it was Mitt Romney and Karl Rove who were shocked on election night and knew something had to be wrong with numbers because they weren't winning. So the bubble inside Trump world is overwhelming, saying that Donald Trump is going to win this race. And again, it reminds me so much of 2012. Everybody was shocked, actually, when Barack Obama ended up winning and winning easily. We don't know where we are here. It's tied. That is the latest. That is the latest of polls. Of course, the last NBC or the last New York Times Siena poll that came out several days earlier had it tied, but also had things breaking her way. And so hard to say which direction the poll's going. I will say, though, on the closing arguments, I've always believed that, and I've told Donald Trump in the distant past and other people in his administration, politics is about addition. It's not about subtraction. And I surprised myself by still being surprised by how negative, how exclusionary, how racist the attacks against Puerto Rico, the attacks again against Hispanics, echoing what Donald Trump said years ago, that Hispanics were breeders. So it's still surprising to me that any side in any campaign in any part of American history would act that way. But they're completely confident that they're going to win. But Jim Messina, this ABC poll, again, the latest poll, it'd be interesting to see if other polls follow it. But you have trend lines going the way the Harris campaign would obviously want it to be. Same thing with Sienna. Sienna had, even though it was tied, had some trend lines where late breakers were breaking dramatically towards her. I think the number I keep going back to, and it's a number that I have been looking at for 3 years now, if Donald Trump is going to run, and the number is 47. Donald Trump is at 47%. Donald Trump is at 48%. There was a time when people were cheering the 20% that Bobby Kennedy was going to take off the board to make 47% enough. That's not happening now. So I guess if Harris does win and she has a 4-point lead, like 51 to 47, everybody's going to go, why? Of course, you idiots. He was never going to get over 47%. Maybe we'll be saying that. But I still think that's the question. For Donald Trump to win, this is not even 40 years ago. He's going to have to get 48, 49% most likely in the national poll for a lot of reasons, demographic shifts we're not going to waste our viewers' time with. But still, that's where I'm still stuck. He's got a hard ceiling. How does he win with 47% of the vote nationally, even as you project that toward electoral college votes?
Joe, he doesn't, and you're exactly right. The weird thing is someone should call his campaign and explain your math to them, because they have been stuck at 47 and a half for a year. And yet, Joe, what is their closing argument? Their closing argument in a race where they desperately need another point and a half, maybe 2 points, is to ostracize those same voters, to end with anger, to end with racism, to end with an argument that only their base could appreciate, and not even all their base. So it's just, campaigns, you and I have talked about this a lot, are contrasts. And you can't end this campaign better if you're the Harris campaign. What you want is very clear optimism, hope, and the future over the anger of the past. And Donald Trump is giving you that repeatedly. And, don't believe you and I. Look at the NBC poll. By 10 points, late breaking voters are moving to her. And you can tell why, because she has a message to them. Is it close? Of course it is. Is it always going to be close? Of course it is. But what you need to do at the end is move your voters to vote and to get the persuadables to move at the end. And right now, it looks like from early vote numbers and from polls, she's doing that, Joe.
That's what I don't understand. Again, I've just never understood the anger, the hatred, the whole idea. And I guess the problem is the party is motivated by one central theme, and that is own the libs. What they don't realize is when that's their theme, you have conservatives like me, more conservative than anybody that spoke last night. You could say that about Liz Cheney, too. Balanced the budget 4 years in a row. I mean, fought for conservative issues, actually believed, unlike J.D. Vance, that you push back against Russian aggression. So you want people like me that even if they're not Republicans anymore, just go, okay, well, that's fine. You want guys guys in Wisconsin, older guys in Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania going, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But last night was bizarre and confusing as the final weeks have been. It's optimism versus pessimism. It's joy versus retribution and rage. That's what I just did. This is what I just didn't understand about calling Puerto Rico a floating pile of garbage. Attacking the United States as he has. But anyway, I want to go back though, Jim, because you're so perfect for this because you were there in 2012. I think you and I would agree. This race is tied. We don't know which way it's going to break. Okay. But it's crazy. I don't know if it's a pose, but Donald Trump, the people around Donald Trump, the Trump campaign, everybody else, They have been crowing that they've got this in the bag for 3 months now. And again, I see no data. I see no data privately. I see no data publicly to suggest that they've got this in the bag. And it just seems like a repeat of 2012 when they were saying the same thing about Mitt Romney, that he was going to beat Obama by 7 points, and it just never happened. This has got to seem like deja vu all over again to you.
Oh, absolutely, Joe. And, at the time, I remember the Romney campaign telling reporters, look at our rallies, look at the momentum, look at the excitement of our base. And that stuff doesn't matter. What matters is sheer cold, hard numbers. And when you look at who's early voting in Atlanta, when you look at who's early voting in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, it tells a very, very different story. And, there's this 10-mile square mile logic-free zone called Washington, D.C. And in Washington, D.C., people are like, oh, look at the momentum Trump has. Show me that from the data. Show me that from the breaking numbers in the NBC poll. Show me this ABC poll, the numbers Mika laid out. I mean, the number I thought was the most amazing, Mika, was the 6-point lead for her on middle class, who fights for the middle class. That's a really important number for these late-breaking voters who are mostly economic voters. And so, you just can't look at this and say he has this in the bag. All they are trying to do is display confidence and try to display strength because it's all they have left, Joe.
Well, the last couple polls have shown, not just the ABC poll, the last couple polls show, and I think the New York Times Siena poll has also shown, who cares about people like you? Who cares more about people like you? And she's winning it, and she's winning it pretty comfortably. So, again, I don't understand the confidence. Now, listen, I'm going to say this one more time. I think the race is tied. I have no idea what direction this race is going in. And so I'm genuinely confused as why everybody around Donald Trump, everybody in that sort of stratosphere says they're going to win this easily. It's going to be a landslide. I don't understand it. You never know. And you know what? When you make the mistake of thinking that you've got it in the bag, which I never, even when I was up 25 points in polls, I never let my staff think anything other than we were down 5 points and we didn't have enough time to catch up and we had to get out and work throughout the night. So we ended up winning by 40 points. I mean, that's how you think. But I'm saying this not so much for Republicans who say, oh, he's got it in the bag. I'm saying this for Democrats who are believing this, because I'm hearing this. I'm hearing calls from people going, oh, it's so... Not from the campaign. The campaign has a steely-eyed optimism. But I'm getting calls from a lot of other people, some people on the show going, oh, it just seems so bad. And I just keep going, it reminds me of 2012.
Yeah.
You don't know who's going to win. Look at these clips from 2012, Fox News.
The voters vote, the counters count as the candidates